Hey guys, we are on day 117 in our Bible reading plan, and today we're reading in the book of First Chronicles, chapter 6, and we're reading another genealogy. Today the genealogy is going to focus on the tribe of Levi. So we read at the beginning of chapter 6 about Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. We're told that they are children of Amram and Kohath, all the way back to Levi. And then the text is going to focus in on the sons of Aaron, from Aaron to Azariah, who served in the temple that Solomon built. All the way down, it finishes his line with Josedek, who was serving when the exile happened with Nebuchadnezzar. Then the text is going to telescope back out to Levi's sons again. We're going to read about Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And we read that Samuel comes from the line of Kohath. And then from there we read the account of David putting Levites in charge of the music that's played in the house of the Lord. And he's going to put 3 people in charge that it lists here: Heman, Asaph, and Ethan. And the text is very careful to trace the lineage of these men back all the way to Levi. So we see that David puts Levites in charge of leading music in the house of the Lord. And then it finishes off with this recap, more genealogies, of course, but also with them, we're getting the territories that were given to each of the tribes within Levi. And we are told again that they're given pasture land. And if we remember from our previous readings that the Levites' share and inheritance was in the Lord, and so they weren't given their own territory, but they were given pasture lands within each of the territories so that they could allow their cattle to graze and raise livestock. So that's what we're reading as we're reading through this genealogy. It is a bit lengthy, and some of the things that really stood out to me as I was reading, I was just reminded of why we're reading these genealogies as we're going through the account of the tribes of Levi. And First Chronicles is very careful to point out the important people who were serving at key moments during the reign of the kings, all the way through to the exile of the Israelites during the time of King Nebuchadnezzar. And so it's sort of laying this foundation for us, again, recapping the history of Israel through the genealogies of who was serving in the temple at the time of these really specific events that were important to the reign of King David. Mentioning Samuel and the lineage is really important as well. And for me, the thing that really stood out to me that I hadn't noticed in the past, and perhaps it's because we're going back and forth between the Psalms and the book of Chronicles as we're reading this, just that David appoints musicians to play music in the house of the Lord. That had never stood out to me before. I know that he did do that, we have Psalms of Asaph, we have all of these specific Psalms, and just connecting those names even as we're reading through. Just thinking about the experience of these Psalms that we're reading today being read in the house of the Lord, being sung in the house of the Lord, and just how that was shaping their worship of God back then, and how it still impacts our worship of God today with these timeless Psalms that we've been reading. And just being reminded that we can draw near to God in our reading of those Psalms. We can draw near to God in our reading even of genealogies, and connecting just each of these pieces of the text. So just understanding and beginning to grasp the depth of our faith and our faith practices, and how the Psalms have really shaped our faith, how they've shaped the history of the church, how they shape our understanding of God, and that David as king found these things to be so important that he put someone in charge of the music during those days, and he entrusted the care of it to not just anyone, but to Levites who were meant to be serving in the temple, to be holy and set apart, and to be ministering to the Lord. And so these Psalms that we read, I'm just reminded of how deeply important they are to our faith and our understanding of God and our worship of God. And so I'm encouraged in that today. I hope that you are too. Keep reading through. I know genealogies get a little bit difficult, but read them out loud, listen to them on the Bible app, and highlight the names that stand out to you. I hope you guys are encouraged by this, and I hope you have a great day.